So I'm just writing my book and things are happening. First and foremost, what's happening is I'm greatly in the flow of receiving my download as I'm then transferring the download from within me onto the computer so I can share it with the world. And there's so much that's happening because even as I write, I am self-discovering. So lots of things that I've been investigating for many years, when we actually are confronted with having to explain ourselves absolutely, impeccably, explicitly, we have to think very hard and we have to search. And if we know the information, then we'll find it. And if we don't know it, then we'll have to think about it a little more until we do. And so I'm discovering things now about the nature of what it is to be and why and how I've encountered and experienced the things I've encountered and experienced. And one of the things that I was investigating over this last year was the difference between belief and faith and what actually those terms really mean. And I found that faith is a supernatural concept. Of course, because it pertains to the supernatural. It pertains to our deity. We can't, lots of people feel as if they can't really know the deity. We're told that we can't know the deity. We'll have to just believe, that's why we have to have faith. But I don't think that's true. And lots of other people, that Paramahansa Yogananda in the second coming of Christ, he's saying what I'm saying, that we can know God. God is within us. We are God. And so we know ourselves. It's an amazing journey, people. It really is. It takes us to the depths of the cosmos. So, look, behind me here, the thing is about what I'm doing. I am all the things I'm speaking about. I am the light. The light, I have to have it within my home. I have to have the natural environment, which I am in my home. So I have my books, which impart all this wonderful wisdom to me. Then I have all these natural things all about me, which, you know, everything from the sunset to the surfing to the VW, you know, minivan, which is about life, travelling around with bare feet and just a pair of shorts on in the sunshine, and, you know, eating as natural as we can and without distorting ourselves with impurities. And so whilst I'm standing here rather, because I stand all day long, sitting down isn't good for one. And so I'm standing at my station. And then I look at my plants, and my plants are really beautiful tropical plants. And I say to my plants, guys, come on, look, I didn't buy you so you could turn your back towards me, did I? Why are you doing that? I want to see how beautiful you look. This is what I want to see. I don't want to see the back of your head. What's pleasing about that? You see what I'm saying, people? And so I have to turn them around. But what they do is, you see, because they're pretty incalcitrant. Incalcitrant? Oh, what's that word? Incalcitrant. Oh, calcitrant. Oh, you know when you just forget something? I've said it 1,000 times, but I've just forgotten it. Stubborn is what I'm trying to say. When something is stubborn, then it continues to do what it usually does. And so, like this little fellow here, look, I don't find this is your best attribute. I think the one that is facing the light is your best attribute. Now, so what I'm saying here, people, then this is the very interesting thing. These plants, they thrive and live off light and water and the nutrients, but it is the light that they are always heading towards. And when they head towards the light, then they thrive. And they turn their back mostly on everything else what's going on around them. And so I'm like, well, that's what I've done for this past 13 years. I've turned my back mostly on everything that is going on around me, and I'm facing the light. So, Mr. Nobody, in recent times, he has been having... What's he been doing? He's been opining his observations. And his observations are that I'm very distracted. And when I go out with him, although I'm speaking to him all the time, and I can actually walk and chew gum at the same time, so I am giving him the greatest attention and I'm engaging with him in conversation, but I'm not looking at him because I'm too enthralled with the natural world, and I just have to keep looking, feeling and touching the natural world about me, and I'm collecting samples like Darwin, like Darwin. He travelled with this ship called the Beagle for 4 years, and during this 4 years he gathered thousands and thousands of samples to build his hypothesis of the theory of evolution. And so I'm very like that. I'm very enthralled and intrigued and captivated by the natural world. For me, just to stand and look at my friend isn't anything like as satiating as to listen to him and look at the world. So he's feeling as if like we're with a friend who, when you're speaking to, are looking into their phone. And they're holding conversation with you, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. But you know, you haven't got their full attention. They are distracted. Now, personally, I don't want to be in the vicinity of anybody that does that. That's why we don't carry phones. And anybody that I'm going to be a friend with won't bring their phone out of their pocket or bag more than on very rare occasions. Because I'm the sort of person who demands full attention. So I hear what he's saying. And he's trying to bring me back from my encroachment on the abyss. Because I'm becoming quite aloof. As you can see, the natural world is becoming more and more important to me. I don't have pictures of people other than my daughter in this apartment. There is no pictures of people or idols or bodies or anything that I would prefer over and above the leaves on my wall. And so therefore you can see quite distinctly that I am most certainly turning my face away from the human being, and I'm turning it towards the light, and I receive the light from the natural environment, from the literature that I read, and from the thoughts that I think. They all pertain to knowing God, knowing me. And so in this chapter, I'm writing as if I'm making the realisation that I've just realised this for the first time. Well, in actual fact, I haven't. It's been an ongoing thing but it feels as if I'm realising it for the first time. And I'm writing it as if I'm realising it, because I'm actually putting it down. I'm actually writing it, and so I'm writing it with that energy, you know, with that passion. And what I'm saying is that the more I look at the world, the more I realise I'm looking at myself. And so, really, there's no point in looking at the world, other than if you enjoy it, because all the information is here. It's all in here. Because whatever we're perceiving is being perceived in here. So therefore, it is actually in here. And as there's no evidence for an external world, because quantum physicists tell us that it doesn't exist, then therefore it's kind of like Rene Descartes wrote that, you know, all that just could be an evil demon just lying to us, telling us lies, because he couldn't find any truth in all of that. The only thing he could find truth with was in his thoughts. He thought, therefore he was. And so, as synchronicity would have it, I received a link on the channel, which was a 15-minute link, and it was of a young college boy, didn't appear to be any older than 20 years, and it was about mid-1960s when this interview was recorded. And the interviewer was asking this kid what his experience of LSD was like. Because what actually happened was he got committed to a mental institution because he'd started to think about God and speaking about God. This was even before he was taking psychedelics. But then when his mom turned out he was taking psychedelics, and in the 60s, of course, LSD all of a sudden became the big demon. And so she was saying, well, I mean, look, I mean, I'm telling him, no, you cannot know God whilst you're alive. The only way you can know God is when you die. And that's the misconception. And he's saying, no, 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 no. I know God now. I see God now. I feel God now. And she's like, oh, my son's going crazy. And so she gets him committed to a mental institution for a short period. And he's saying, well, I can see what people are thinking because I'm saying that I see God in everything. He's everywhere. He's in you, he's in me, he's in every single thing. Everything is God. And we don't have to die before we see him, before we can have a relationship with him. And so this is the conclusion that I drew out of myself when I was investigating with Christians what faith was, what was that glue that held this fiction of the Bible or the Quran together. What is it? Faith. And I'm like, I couldn't understand it because I never had it. I never had faith. I just knew. And so what they were having faith for in believing, I know and have a relationship with every day. And I'm like, what is this faith? What is it? It seems to me like an evil demon because they knew not what God was. They had never experienced God. And you'll find this with the vast majority of believers. They don't know God. If you speak with people, like I'm speaking to you now, and if they convey what I'm conveying to you now, you will know, if you know God, that I know God. And if you don't know God, and you listen to me, saying different stuff, what the vast majority of people are saying, you might say, well, you're just a lunatic, or you've took too many drugs. But when people take drugs, they will see into other dimensions, and then they will impart that information. And to people who haven't took those psychedelics, entheogens, then they've got no idea what they're speaking about. When you take these entheogens, bang, instant portal into the kingdom of God. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And so, when you've seen it hundreds of times, it becomes a part of you, like it has me. And now, I don't need DMT or psilocybin to see God everywhere. I see God everywhere in everything. And so, it really is a miracle. And so, looking at those plants, I thought, well, isn't that the thing? The plants, you see, they turn their face to face the light as a natural instinctive thing. And yet if we do it, then all the other people in our vicinity have a problem with that, because they think we're becoming distant and aloof, and we're losing it because we're not here, we're not in this moment, we're not in your moment, we're in our own moment, we're in God's moment. Whatever we're experiencing is vastly over and above that we can just engage in on a normal basis with any person. And so, when I'm out and about, it isn't enough just to communicate. I can do that standing on my head. I can do 100 other things at the same time. I'm not so limited that the only thing I can do is to look at the person and be fully present and engaged in that, because otherwise I won't be able to stay on track with my thoughts. No. And I say this to him. I say, you can ask me anything and I'll speak in the most deepest and profoundest of ways, even though I'm so engrossed in something else, because what I'm saying to you is coming out of the left brain mostly. That's where all this stuff is being stored. And I'm right-braining this. Or I'm right-braining when I speak and I'm conveying about this, and I'm left-brain, which is analysing. Probably that's the thing. It's the left brain that's analysing everything, because the left brain breaks everything down into the smallest increments possible to analyse, to quantify, to pigeonhole. And so I'm doing that. But then the right brain is in free flow when I'm engaging with him. And funny I should say that, actually. I was listening to a Jordan Peterson and Ian McGilchrist conversation last night. Now, Ian McGilchrist has wrote several books, and one of them is the book that I often mention, and it's this one here. The Master and His Emissary, Ian McGilchrist. And he is a psychiatrist, amongst other things, philosopher and an intellectual. And he speaks in all of his books about the difference between the left and the right hemispheres. And they're very engaging and cram-packed, filled with knowledge. So you can imagine a conversation with Peterson, who is a psychoanalyst, and McGilchrist, who is a psychiatrist. Well, they've got a lot of stuff to talk about, and they're both very, very philosophically inclined. And so Peterson, Gilchrist, McGilchrist, you can find it if you are inclined to do so. So a few things there, and I'm working through this book, and I'm receiving downloads. I'm digging out information from the archives of my own consciousness. And also, I'm finally putting the pieces together. So that's why it's a beautiful thing. If you wrote, for instance, this basically is my spiritual autobiography. It's all about the experiences that I've had and how I see the world. I don't want to write about somebody else, how other people have seen the world. I'm a complex, cosmic human being. I can form my own opinions about things, and my own opinions are extremely unique. Never been one like it in the whole cosmos. Can you imagine? Why would I shy away from that? Why would any of us shy away from speaking about our own personal experience unless we consider that we don't have anything to say and we're not important? Well, I pity those people. But me, I've got lots to say. And the things I've got to say, I consider, oh, wow. They're just wow. For the right ears, they are so nurturing. There's just so much. They're so deep and so complex for people who really know what I'm speaking about. Because it's not just words, people. It's a feeling. It's a life being lived. And so that's what my book is about. It's about a life being lived. This is the latest addition to my collection. This, obviously, is a cone. And look at the beautiful symmetry of that. How does nature make something so beautifully imperfect? And then when we look at these cones, we can see the Fibonacci sequence in how those little prongs, I suppose you could say, wind around. If I had a hand free, then I could show you how, you know, like a spiral, these prongs go around, and that's how many plants and things work. And so I was looking for one of these with perfect symmetry, and this was the only one I found on this particular tree. Reachable. All the rest of them, there's only two, or the third one was coming off at an obscure angle. But when you get one, which is how it's supposed to be, the true beautiful form of it, then it's a prize. And so yeah, there you have it. I've got a few more leaves. Oak leaves. They are green oak leaves, because most of the oak leaves, as you can see behind me, they are the ones that would be considered dead. Well, the only difference between the brown ones and the green ones are still filled with chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll is this chemical that gives rise to the colour being green, and it's the chemical that aids the photosynthesis, which is to say it transforms the photons, the light, into carbohydrate. That's photosynthesis. So the trees live on carbohydrate. They turn the light into sugar via photosynthesis. And when the leaves are filled with chlorophyll, then they are absorbing all of the energy for the nutrients of the tree. And in the wintertime, the tree sucks back all of that chlorophyll and all of those nutrients and vitamins, and stores them in the trunk and in the roots, because if the tree was to store them in the leaves during a heavy frost, they would lose a lot of their energy, and so they don't take that risk. And so you can see here, see, these are just different varieties of oak here. This one and this one, this one and this one are the same tree. This one's like a red oak, or American oak, that's what they're called. And so look how the difference is, and you can find these two like that on the same tree. And then you got this one here, which was a green one, next to a brown one. And then you've got these, which are English oak, which are much smaller than, you know, red oaks or American oaks. And then you get them like this, which doesn't look like one of these at all, does it? And that's the beauty of it, you see. Whenever you see in these books what a particular leaf is supposed to look like, and then you'll find 100 that don't look like that hanging on a tree, and you go, what's going on here then? But you see, because nature is so diverse, then people in these books just put an average one down. It's like getting a picture of a human being. There's going to be Mr. Average, you know, average height, average set, and this, that, and the other. But you can find small, little stubby ones, and very tall, lean ones, can't you? And all different sorts in between. Anyway, people, I'm speaking far too much. I'm going to walk to the gym and do that little part of my life, and then I'll come back to continue to write more. And so maybe you have found this video quite enlightening and informative, and if so, you've benefited from the day, haven't you? Well done. Talk to you later.